In this tutorial, I'm gonna show y'all step by step how to do a perfect low taper fade with a textured fringe. A lot of kids are requesting this haircut nowadays, so had to bring in my nephew to model this one out for me. But what's up, faded culture? My name is Sergio Barron, and let's just get right into this tutorial. As y'all can see, my nephew was looking a little scruffy. He's been past due and he needed this haircut for back to school, so I had to clean him up. And by the way, guys, all our products and clothing, anything that y'all like to show support with, y'all can purchase anything at fadedculture.com. But first and foremost, water is going to be your best friend when it comes to doing any kind of sectioning or shear work. So be sure to keep that water bottle hanging on your right pocket, because you're going to continuously need to be pulling it out and resaturating the hair. The more wet it is, the easier it is to control. So just keep that in mind. But first, what I'm gonna do is separate the sides and the back from the top, just so that we can basically create our foundation first before I trim the top. Now, he did like the length that he had on the sides and the back, so I'm gonna go ahead and leave it. But I'm gonna go ahead and just clean up the foundation area around the parietal and the crown, just to give myself something to go off of when I trim the top. So going around like a U shape around his head, trimming a little bit of the hair just to even it out, not really cutting off length, so to speak. It's really just to even everything out and make sure it sits nice so that I can trim the top according to this. And I am using our very own Faded Culture shear set. Again, y'all can find our stuff at fadedculture.com. It comes with a pair of thinning shears as well. So we got a lot of good reviews on them, guys, so I encourage y'all to check them out. But as you can see, all I did was trim around the head or alongside the parietal ridge and the crown. And then I parted down the middle, because first and foremost, when we're doing these haircuts, people really prioritize the fringe length. You don't want to cut it too short. So what I'm gonna do is establish that length first and foremost before I layer the rest of the top of the hair, or trim the top of the rest of the hair. So first, just part it down the middle, get it nice and laid down as smooth as possible. And basically we're just gonna focus on about 2 to 3 sections from the frontal side of the hairline. So as you see here, I'm gonna focus first on his right side of the head and basically determine where I want the fringe to sit. This is important because these type of haircuts, if you cut the fringe too short, some kids or clients in general just won't like it. You have to nail this part down. So this is a way that I go about doing it to exactly determine where they want the fringe to be cut. So as you do this, pulling a small section at a time, have your client facing the mirror and ask them by holding, either give them a mirror and then hold the piece of hair, a little bit of hair, and kind of just tell them like, hey, how much do you want me to cut? And that way y'all are both on the same page as to how much. And then just repeat it on the opposite side. So I pulled about 2 sections each side, trim that, and then whatever your client tells you to trim. My nephew, for example, told me he just wanted it right above the eyebrow. Just cut it a little bit longer, just because when you dry the hair, it tends to shrink and recoil a little bit. So just keep that in mind. Better safe than sorry. So in the end, it's easier to come back and trim a little bit from the fringe if still needed. But next, I'm gonna go ahead and pull a profile cutting section, basically a middle section about the size or the width of a comb. And you can use clips if you need to. I always tell people use clips until you just don't need to. But as you see here, what I did was, starting from the front, I picked up the hair and I looked for the shortest, longest piece to layer the rest of the hair. And then just go all the way towards the back to trim the top first length. And then I'm gonna continue pulling vertical sections, and every section I'm basically pulling straight from the base. So that first section, I brought it to this next section instead of pulling the new section to the previous. Since I am cutting a round shape on top, I'm cutting every shape or every cutting line straight from the base. So now with this third section, basically I'm bringing the second section to the third, and so forth. And remember guys, your finger position will determine the shape that you're creating. In this case, I'm just going round, following the shape of the head. So just make sure your cutting line and fingers are imitating that area of the head that you picked up the hair from. Hopefully that makes sense. And I am point cutting guys, just because I want to give the top more of a textured look. It pairs well with this style of haircut. Now once I'm done with the right side, I'm gonna go ahead and just pull that middle section again with the new section as well, and go ahead and do the same thing. I'm pushing the first section to my next section, and then just cutting. So for the right panel, remember I was pulling every time. Now basically I'm pushing every new section away. Again, because we're following the head shape. I ain't gonna lie, it took me a while to really understand how to cut vertically. I'm way more comfortable cutting horizontally, but it has its perks with controlling certain shapes. So I'll pick up the hair. As you see, I'm pulling first, but right before I cut, I'm gonna push. You see how I push this time, and then I cut. And if y'all feel like y'all need more guidance, guys, we do have our online mentorship. It's a 7-day free trial, but we have a bunch of tutorials. We were able to check out your work. You can upload your work, and you're also able to engage with the rest of the community. Everybody's always asking questions. Everybody's trying to learn just like you. So it's a great community full of great people, eager and ambitious to work and learn. So, but yeah, right here, I'm just kind of double checking, cross checking, I mean, just to see if I need to clean up anything. But yeah, guys, the link is in the description if y'all like to check out our online mentorship. I think y'all really like it, especially if y'all are really trying to level up y'all's fade work or y'all shear work. But that's pretty much it for the top shear work. Now I'm gonna go ahead and just blow dry it. I don't know if my nephew's mean mugging the camera like that, but I'm gonna go ahead and blow dry it all the way, especially where I'm gonna do my fade work. Sometimes I won't care to blow dry it 100% all the way through. Really, I'll focus on just blow drying exactly where I'm gonna use my clippers. And then before setting in my guidelines, I like to get a good idea of where I'm gonna set in my fade. So first I'll set in my perimeter lines just to have a good idea of where I want my fade to sit. So I'm gonna go ahead and just curve out these temple arches first with my trimmers. And I am using WAHL tools, guys. If y'all like to save a little bit on y'all's WAHL tools at wahlpro.com, go ahead and use fadedculture 15 at checkout. And right here, I'm gonna just clipper over comb just to get it, basically start the shape that I'm trying to create with the fade. I know sometimes some people may not have an idea of where to start to set in these guides, guys, but that's why I always tell people, have a picture reference of what you're trying to achieve. That way you have something to aim towards and you're not just winging it. In the beginning, I used to always carry a picture, like what was the end result supposed to look like, and just try to copy it as much as possible. And now to debulk, I'm gonna go ahead and grab my 1.5 lever fully open. And this is where you decide where you want your fade to meet the top length. And you see how I exaggerate? I'm basically just sculpting out the shape of the taper where I want the fade to meet the top length. And wherever it is that you want it to meet, you got to flare out. So I know a lot of us always talk about setting in our first initial guideline where the fade starts. You got to also understand where your fade is going to end, if that makes sense. So that's basically what I'm doing right here. I'm just establishing a rough draft of where I want my fade to end or connect with the top length. And if you flare out with the clipper and you're basically sculpting it out, you should be good. It'll facilitate your shorter cutting lines when you set them in your shorter guidelines. You'll be able to see them a lot more clearly without having all this hair just hanging over. So remember, as soon as you hit that point, wherever you feel you want the fade to end, you have to lift the clipper off the scalp and flare out. And now, starting with the clipper lever closed, I'll go ahead and set in my first guide. Now this is me establishing where I want my fade to start. Now, if you're in doubt and you feel like you don't know where to start, then like I said, try to reference these videos, pay attention to where exactly it's at, and always start a little bit lower than what you think in the beginning. Once you're comfortable with how straight your guideline is, go ahead and set in your next guideline with the clipper lever fully open. And guys, keep in mind that as I'm setting in these guides, I'm setting them in as if I'm already blending them out. And I say that because a lot of people, they set them in a little too harsh, and that's not the point. These guidelines are just there as guides, not so much hard lines that's gonna make it hard for you to come back and blend out. So as you're setting them in, try to set them in soft by just flaring out. So as you see, I came back in with the 1.5 or the 1 guard lever open. After that, I'm gonna grab the 1.5 guard and do the exact same thing, except this time, I'm not really setting in the guide. I'm trying to finish connecting. Remember, this is what we initially used to debulk, but I'm just going over it one more time just to really refine that area now that we've set in our first guidelines. Now, before finishing connecting, I'm gonna go ahead and just start blending out the initial 2 guidelines. Starting with that half clip lever at 3/4, using the corners and lightly starting to blend out that top guideline first. And I always start right before the guideline when I lay down the clipper, and then as I cross that guideline, I flare out. Again, because we don't want to create a hard line. When you flare out, that's what helps you leave a soft line or dark area behind. For this line, it does take me 2 guards to blend out, so you'll see here that I'll come back in with the 1 guard lever at 3/4 to finish blending it out as smooth as possible. And again, the challenge is to not create another hard line. So be as detailed as possible, and with time, you'll get better and better. Now I'm gonna go ahead and take out that first line, starting with the lever closed. Now it does take me 3 lever positions, and for that reason, I'll focus on just about 2 to 3 inches in space at a time. So right here, starting with the clipper lever closed, using the corner, then I open it halfway, come up a little bit higher as I'm flaring out, and then I'll open it all the way to finish blending that initial guide. If you find yourself pushing the fade more and more up, then that should be a note to self that you're being a little too hard with it. You're not flaring out enough and scooping that clipper out. And yeah, it's just, if something's not coming out as neat as you want to, then you got to be changing little ways that you're holding the clipper, or maybe the pressure that you're using. Maybe it's a little too weak, or it's too hard, you know. So you just got to play around with different pressures, different angles of the clipper, and then just corner in the clipper so that you can get in there in a more detailed fashion to help you achieve these fades a lot cleaner. So again, starting with the clipper lever closed, then halfway, and then fully open to blend out the initial start of this guide. And then just repeat it. And I do 0 gap all my tools, guys. Again, and then we do have a video on our channel. I encourage y'all to check it out if y'all want to learn how to 0 gap y'all's clippers. Just type in Faded Culture 0 gap in the search bar here on YouTube. But it's basically, if y'all don't know what zero gapping is, it's just so that to get your clippers to cut as short as possible. But after that, once that line is blended out, go ahead and come back in with the trimmer to take out the rest of the bottom of the hair before following it up with the electric shaver to get it shaved down to the skin. Now it's important that when you're using this trimmer and the shaver that you use them in a way that you don't create any more hard lines into the fade, because you can easily just come back and create hard lines. So as you see here, I'm using only like about a quarter of the shaver and I'm flaring it out. I don't like to lay it completely flat so that it's less chance of creating hard lines. Now I'm gonna finish connecting that bulk that you see here with the clipper over comb. Before you actually run the clipper across the comb, make sure that you're holding the comb steady and try not to push the comb with the clipper. You have to learn how to hold them both together. And then to really soften up the transition, I'll use my thinning shears over comb to get that fade to smooth out as much as possible into this longer length. Now again, starting the process all over with the clipper lever closed to set in our first guide. For this fade, I set it right up where basically the ear starts on top. Then clipper lever fully open. Then the one guard lever open, coming up about a quarter to a half inch every time. Now as you see here, you could barely even see the first guideline, and that's something that I want y'all to keep in mind, is you could barely see it because I'm setting it in soft, but you have to have a general idea of where it's at. So that's why using reference or body reference parts will help you understand where you set in your first guide. So for me, it was right where the ear starts on top. And then I clipper over comb and then just finish smoothing out that transition right here with the thinning shears. Now to start blending out the two guidelines, I'm gonna start with that top one first. Half clip lever at 3/4 using the corners to really soften up that transition a little more. And follow it up with the one guard, still lever at the same place. On the same spot at the 3/4 spot, and then finish blending in that second guideline. Then we can come in with the clipper lever closed to start blending out that line. Even though it's already pretty much faded, I still like going through the process because sometimes I feel like it comes out better. So open the lever, come up a little bit higher, and then open it all the way to finish blending in this taper. Again, just finish taking everything out with the trimmer before following it up with the shaver. And if you do happen to create some hard lines with the shaver, just come back in with your trimmer and try to blend them out as much as possible. Now here I'm gonna go ahead and just line up the arch a lot more detailed. In the beginning it was just kind of like a rough draft. Now I'm gonna really try to clean it up more. This part to me is always really satisfying, guys. I don't know about y'all, but the trimmer work and the shaving, to me, I don't know, I've always loved that in barbering. Just take your time, because this is where the detail work starts to show. Detail work, in my opinion, is what separates every barber from one another, because no one's ever gonna have the same eye. So you got to put your twist to it, and whatever your definition of perfect is what's gonna show. So take your time and just really get into it as much as you can and try to perfect it. And with time and time, you'll start building your eye to get better and better at your detail work. Especially if you continue to study videos, study pictures, and really just get a feel for how to work these tools and get your fades and your haircuts to look as clean as possible. I've been cutting for over 20 years and I'm still, or about 20 years, and I'm still always studying hair. If you're passionate about it, it should never get boring to you. So always adapt to different trends and learn new techniques, and it's always going to pay off in the long run. And in the beginning, I encourage you to always make time for practice, guys. We can always practice and we can always get better. But once we're done with the lineup work, follow up, I'm going to use a little bit of our Faded Culture Shave Gel. Right now, we are running a sale on them, guys. So again, check them out at fadedculture.com. We probably got the best prices on shave gel at the moment. We also have our straight razors and our razor holders. They come in this box right here of 100 blades, 100 double-edged razors. So that's 200 razors per box. I'm always stuck between using the Turkish and the slide. Right here I'm using the slide. I like both of them, but I think the slide for beginner purposes I think makes more sense. Turkish razor might be a little hard for some people, but I like it because of how thin it is. But right here I'm using the slide razor. Again, just being real detailed. Take your time and try to get your lines as sharp as possible. Make sure that you utilize your other hand to really pull the skin and help you create tension to get your razor to slide a lot more with ease. And if you notice, my shaving hand, I'm always laying down a finger on the head to anchor myself. That way I'm not free floating and I'm a little more confident moving around the head. You shouldn't really have to apply any hard pressure, guys. It should be the razor and the shave gel doing all the work. Really, the shave comes from the tension and the shave gel, and a sharp razor, of course. But just be careful and make sure that you're stopping exactly where your lineup already is that you created with your trimmer, because you can easily push your lineup further. But after that, just go ahead and blow dry everything, and then you can come back and do more touch-up work. Remember, the touch-up work doesn't stop at a certain point. It stops whenever you feel you're satisfied. I've even had people come sit back down on the chair because as soon as they stand up, I notice something. So, you know, don't think that that's a bad thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply a little bit of enhancements using our enhancement card, adjustable metal enhancement card. Again, y'all can find it fadedculture.com. And then before I apply some of our matte clay, I'm gonna go ahead and wet the hair first. Emulsify that product into my hands really well before working it into the hair. Now, one way to just leave it styled could be just like this. After you wet it, apply the product, and this could be your end result right here. Or if you want it a little bit more dry, what you do is wet it, apply the product, and then just blow dry it. And as you're blow drying it, you can decide when to stop depending on how matte you want the hairstyle to look. That's all preference. And then after that, you're pretty much done. It's gonna be up to you or up to your client how they want the final ultimate style to be. But here's the before and the after, guys. I hope y'all enjoyed it and were able to learn something from it. If y'all did, let me know in the comments what y'all did or didn't like about the video, or maybe some suggestions that I can do for y'all. But with that being said, guys, thank y'all so much for watching. I'm gonna catch y'all in the next video. Peace.